चित्रोत्पला नदी कोसली सूत्रय पुण्य पुण्यमज्जार केसरी.
Namaskar, I am Supriya and I welcome you all to our channel, The Bajra. Today, our team has explored the Leaning Temple of Huma, famous for its leaning architecture in India and abroad. The queen of Bajra Hiradharadev, the king of Patna state, divided the kingdom into two parts. The borderline was River Anga. The southern part of River Anga was Patna state, whereas the northern part was Huma Rajya, as mentioned in Jai Chandrika of Prahalad Dubey. So, there is no doubt about the existence of Huma before Chauhan Raja in the Sambalpur. The legendary histories of the Hota family say that the division of Patna state was held during Vasudev Hota, who was the fifth ancestor of this lineage. There is an exciting story about how this place's name became Huma. Indrabhuti was the ruler of Sambalka during the first half of 8th century and was prominent yogi of Mantrayana and the writer of Jnana Siddhi. He had an adopted son called Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava was an exile from Sambalka by order of Indrabhuti, and he reached a place called Humkara. A cowherd supplied milk to Padmasambhava and he became a disciple of him. The Hum syllable appeared on his forehead. So, Padmasambhava named him Humkara. With time, the place became Huma after the name of Humkara. Further, Vilasa Vajra enlisted in some Sanskrit colophon as a resident of Ratnadvipa. There is a misapprehension among scholars that Ratnadvipa identified as Ratnagiri Vihar of Odisha. This Vihar has become famous in history and Buddhist texts as Ratnagiri. Still, there is no reference as Ratnadvipa. In Chanda Maricha Tantra Ratnavali and Polemy, Sambalka described as Bajra Kalipuri. Hirakud might be so called Ratnadvipa. Vilasa Vajra was a disciple of Gomadevi. She was the sister of a king called Indrabhuti. It summarized that Lakshminkara and Gomadevi were the same and one person. Vilasa Vajra was said to have practiced litanity, the name of Manjushri, on a small island in Odiyana named Dhima. Dhama of Sambalpur district might be the so-called Dhima. In the premises of the Leaning Temple, there are ancient sculptures of the 8th to 9th century. On the left-hand side of Brusaba Mandapa, there is a sculpture of Bajravarahi. The pujari of Jadeswari temple of Dhamma performs a ritual on this side during Saradiya Durga Puja. Then after, the 16th puja of goddess Jadeswari incited. So it reveals that both the goddesses may come under one grouping. Besides this, the upper half of a broken sculpture seems like Kurukula and it is required further study. In the earlier article, the story of Secret Pitha, it is observed that the rites of Kaula Jnana may be categorized as old and medieval traditions. Abhinavagupta, the writer of Tantra Loka, admitted that the great Matsyendranath was the revealer of Kaula Tattva during the medieval India. Matsyendranath had completed several works. The most important is Kaula Jnana Nirnaya Tantra. The basic philosophy of this Tantra is the transformation of Kaula Jnana in the lineage. Further, in the Mahanadi Upper Valley civilization, in the tributary of River Jonk, Sunabeda Plateau, and Pilaparva of Ranipur Jharil was the land of the old custom of Kaula Tattva. This evidence that Huma was a shrine of Tantric Buddhism and Nathaism from 8th to 10th century AD, I believe, It was a shrine of Tantric Buddhism in the 8th century. Let us now come to the origin of Bajravarahi. As the Yogini cult took root, Bajravarahi became the leader of Mandal in her own right. The Guhya Samaya Sadhana Mala shows the central deity as a solitary heroine without any consort. Bajravarahi can manifest several forms, assuming something of the generic quality. There is a wide variety of yoginis in the different circular temples of India, which many other groupings of animal-headed young female bodies, beautiful women, and grotesque or scary figures as a yogini. Identifying the yogini in the different temples and naming them is always different because the sculptures present local tradition, besides a few similar figures. In the circular yogini temple at Ranipur, Jhariyal, many yogini sculptures are semi-human beings, beside a few familiar figures. The animal-headed yogini of this circular temple represents themselves to a clan. The most common forms of Bajravarahi are Bajra Yogini, having a human body and a hog's head, and her characters as the leader of the Yogini horde. The Buddhist deity inherits her wrathful character, and just as Varahi with her gruesome head is intended to inspire terror in her enemies, therefore Bajravarahi's character is fierce and wrathful. Bajravarahi need not always appear with hog's head, but in one of the standard forms of Bajravarahi, a snarling hog's head is attached sideways to the right of her head visualized. Fearsome animal-headed deities in Tantric Buddhism were traditionally associated with protection, and this seems to be the purpose of the characteristic hog's head in Bajravarahi iconography. There are 3 forms of Bajra Yogini in Tibetan Buddhism. The first is a form also derived from Naropa and called Naroskekari. The second is a form derived from Siddha Maitripa, known therefore as Maitri Khechari. The third one is derived from Siddha Indrabhuti, that is called Indra Khekari, sometimes also known as Indra Bajravarahi. These 3 forms are traditionally considered the highest practices within a collection of esoteric deity practices known as the 13 Golden Dharma of Sakya. Indrabhuti's authorship implies that geographical source of the teachings was Odiyana, the very homeland of esoteric spiritual exposures, as many tantric colophons testify. The text itself reveals an East Indian influence with its transparent exchange of consonants of Mantrodhara. Despite her wrathful nature, the iconography of the goddess is also clearly erotic. She seems like a red rose, lovely with fresh youth, and with charming plump arms and feet. Inside the goddess's sex, it is red, blazing, full to the brim with syllables, and whirling around like a potter's wheel. Mirrors the vision of whirling mantra syllables. The yogini draws the dharmakaya onto a stainless vessel containing a paste of saffron and vermilion powder. The mantra is written letter by letter as per the tantric tradition of Tibet. The Bajravarahi in the leaning temple of Huma can appear as a snarling hog's head attached sideways to the right of her head. She is standing on her right leg and bends left leg on a corpus, on a warrior pose, often four-armed, holding hook or vajra, nose and mace, in upper and lower right hand having pot-bellied. The most crucial figure in this sculpture is Union on the bottom of the right leg. The Union figure of the statue emphasized that sadhaka may visualize secret mantra in her nether mouth of the genital. She is the leader of Satchakravati Mandala with her male consort in Abhidhotra Tantra, in which 5 darker Buddhas surround the central couple. She is named variously as Gyanadakini, Gyanadhattaswari, Bajravarahi in Nispanna Yogavali. The tantric practitioner must follow the deity or yoga to visualize her secret mantra. The chief means of tantric path is called deity yoga, which leads the practitioner to attend Devi forms of body. Further, deity yoga would classify into action tantric deity yoga, the sound deity yoga, letter deity yoga, form deity yoga, seal deity yoga, and sign deity yoga. All the factors of deity yoga influenced by meditation. Both are empty of actual existence. All phenomena have the same nature. The final nature is emptiness. With this realization, a white moon disk visualized with resounding of deity's mantra. These sounds turn into the letters that form the mantra. The notes radiate beams of light. The lights reabsorbed into the letters along with the blessing of God. It is called Great Exposition of Secret Mantra. The salient features of this form of meditation are: first, dissolution of the irreligious existence into emptiness; second, manifestation of the mind, realizing enlightenment into a moon disk; third, presentation of one's realization in a linguistic form, that is, letter; fourth, transformation of the letters into a symbol of the deity; fifth, transformation of the character into the bodily form; and last, merging of the visualized divine form with the actual divinity. Now let's pay some light on the Bajravarahi Sadhana. The Bajravarahi Sadhana is an exciting subject to learn because the process and methodology of the sadhana are transparent. The sadhana is divided into 2 groups: meditation stage followed by various external rites. The earlier one is the 4 meditation stage, describe progressively more extended meditation based on the visualization of Bajravarahi within her mandala. At this stage, a complete sadhana in itself. It opens and closes with the usual frame verses, prescribes the practitioner preliminary action, and then progresses to the yogini's generation of himself as Bajravarahi. Ritual and yogic procedures are then briefly mentioned, and it ends, as is standard in a sadhana, with the repetition of the deity's mantra. The second meditation stage is brief. It simply prescribes the visualization of a 5-fold mandala: the central deity, Bajravarahi, on the pericarp of the lotus, surrounded by 4 more goddesses on the 4 central petals of the pericarp. The third meditation stage increases the mandala to include the 8 outer goddesses at the gates, thus creating a 13-fold mandala. The fourth meditation stage goes on to supply the goddesses of 24 sites or pithas situated upon the 3 mandala circles that surround the central petal in concentric rings. This brings the mandala to its complete 37-fold form. Each meditation stage prescribes the necessary mantras for the attendant goddesses and the main deity. Upon completing the mandala, meditation stage 4 also describes the contemplative practices to be undertaken upon the basis of complete visualization. Umapati, a great scholar of Tantra, prescribes ritual procedures such as external worship at the end of sadhana. The sadhana is a preliminary to the rites because the practitioner is to undertake in his new divine form. However, It is careful to separate the rituals from the body of the sadhana, which enables him to preserve the narrative flow of the four meditation stages. For example, he points out passing the moment in the first meditation stage to perform the testing of the nectar ritual. Still, he reserves the later section's actual procedures that deal with specifically ritual practices. In this way, the ritual practices as given in the Bajravarahi Sadhana. Now let's talk about the bliss of Bajravarahi. According to the legendary tales, Dakinis make many magical appearances in Uddiyana. In one version of Ghantapada's life, the Eden travel to this land through divine involvement. He encounters a female swineherder who became his instructress and later becomes none other than Bajravarahi herself. Because yoginis usually took human and animal forms, they were ideal consorts for yogins engaged in sexual yoga. One Tibetan hagiography of Kannaga describes how his two pupils, the Yogini Mekhala and Kanakkhala, are challenged to cut off their heads to convert the king. They happily undertake before dancing, lead into space and disappearing into rainbow light. Taranatha says that Bajravarahi herself appeared with a severed head among her devotees as an antidote. Princess Lakshminkara of Sambalka also used the device to prove her innocence, that becoming the consort's relationship before her father. She chopped off her head and walked around the city, while white blood flowed from her neck, after which citizens called her Chinnamunda Varahi. The means of Kudi in the tribal language is a daughter. By the passage of time, the tribal people of Sonpur called their queen Varahi or Varali or Vararola Kudi. At the end, we come to a conclusion that there are several forms of Bajravarahi in India and abroad, and the sculpture at Huma is an artistic and nice one. Further, the leaning temple of Huma has situated at the river confluence of Mahanadi and Dulijor. Therefore, it is very encouraging to practice Tantra Yoga and Mahayoga. During the 8th century AD, this place could be Sadhana Pitha of Tantric Buddhism, all of which reflect the Kapalika and yogic concerns of the highest Buddhist tantras. Do the various manifestations present a dynamic picture of the cult of Vajra Yogini in the process of evolution and development of Huma? That still remains a question. This observation has been made by Sri Salegram Hota, and he has dedicated this crucial piece of information to his elder sister, late Shantilata Panda, wife of Patita Pavana Panda of Burda of Pargat district. That is all for today. Thank you for watching.